Attention. During this podcast, you may experience eureka moments or feel slightly empowered, inspired, energized, and ready to start up at a moment's notice with today's host, Cullen Pope, on Silicon Beach Radio.
Welcome to the Melbourne Silicon Beach podcast. Hi, welcome back to Silicon Beach Radio, to part 5 of our SEO series. You've been listening hopefully to parts 1 to 4 with Peter. I've got a very special guest with us today, Rajiv Agrawal. Am I getting better at that, Rajiv?
Yes, you are, Cullen, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Brilliant. And look, I know that you've worked, I guess more than 17 years now in SEO. You've worked with a lot of websites, different parts of the world, including Australia. And when I think of that, I think of Woolworths and Ibis World, car sales, some of these big companies. You've done some information architecture as well. And so do you want to just give us a brief overview of today, part 5 of this SEO journey, and we're going to be talking about keywords. Is that right?
Yes. So in this podcast, we will be knowing a bit more about keywords, about search intent, how Google uses keyword to find your content, and how you can create optimized keyword strategy to get more relevant and targeted traffic to your website. Okay,
brilliant. And so let's talk about how we got here, how we got to keywords, because I guess for you, in a sense, there's kind of 3 pillars in a way, if we want to express it like that, 3 pillars to SEO for you. Do you want to just tell us about those?
An effective SEO strategy is supported by 3 pillars. First is the technical SEO. The second is content. And third is authority building or backlinks. So technical SEO comprises of your on-site elements, and this would include your information architecture, your meta tags, your speed, your hreflang tags, indexing, your hierarchies, etc. The second pillar is content. And as you know, content is the king, and you need relevant content on your website. Not only to drive traffic, but to give relevant signals to Google so that Google knows what your website is about, what your products are all about. And the third most important and the toughest part of SEO is getting backlinks and authority to your website.
Okay, brilliant. So just for people who, as you know, are on the very early stages of their SEO journey, I guess there are a couple of terms that you might have used there that not everybody's familiar with. And so I guess just unpacking briefly technical SEO and giving some context to people. You're a great WordPress fan as well. Is that right?
Oh, yes. So I've been using WordPress for the last 15 years. And I generally host my personal websites on WordPress. I think it's a fantastic platform. It's not obviously SEO ready out of the box, but it's fairly easy to optimize it for SEO.
So when we're talking about technical SEO, imagine we've got listeners who've got WordPress, we're familiar with it. We've got other listeners that have got Wix and other things that, different Squarespace and all this kind of other platforms. When we talk about technical SEO that covers all of these potentials, how would you describe it or unpack it briefly, technical SEO?
Technical SEO would comprise of everything that's on your site, and this would include your meta tags, your title tags, your H1 headings, your image optimization, your mobile optimization, how your nav menu is structured, how your URLs are structured. All this would be technical SEO.
And the technical SEO, just for other context, I guess, is important because I guess visually I look at it like a bit of a map. Mm-hmm. And if you've got all your technical SEO, all of your roadmap correct, then Google, when it crawls, can run up and down your website quickly and easily and find all of those things, and more or less it doesn't get stopped or blocked or confused, and it's like almost like a clear river runs through these roads for Google to be able to read it correctly. Is that one way you're looking at it?
You put it beautifully. Google needs to crawl your website, and Google needs to understand the content, and technical SEO helps in that. It kind of helps the Google bot go into your website, get all the relevant pages, and helps it index those pages so that when someone types in a query or a keyword, your website comes up in search.
Okay. And I guess one easy way for people to understand this in a very simple sense would be when you look at, I guess, mobile. I guess we call it mobile optimization now. It's been called a few other things recently. But I guess it's the whole idea that, you build your website, simple website, maybe on WordPress or Squarespace or something, and you go, it looks great on the desktop. You send it off to your friend and he goes, this page won't load, or I can't get on there, or what is this menu for? You have a look on your phone and you go, disaster. So that's really a very simple way of thinking about technical SEO as well, isn't it? Is it built for both streams or, tablets as well? That's another good technical river to think of, these three streams of mobile, tablet, and desktop. Yeah?
Oh, yes. And we are living in the mobile-first world. In fact, many of my clients' website has recently been switched over to the mobile-first indexing. Mobile is critical now for your website.
Okay, brilliant. Now, we're not going to be spending too much time on technical today because it's all about keywords. Is that right?
That's right.
So why did you choose out of these sort of three pillars, the keywords, for our first session, SEO Part 5, taking off from where Peter left off?
Keywords are the very foundation of an effective SEO strategy. Keywords can help drive relevant traffic to your business, thus helping increase conversion and revenue. They can help you rank well on search engines. They can help you uncover profitable market and niches, etc. If your website is not optimized for relevant keywords, not only will you have unqualified traffic, which will not convert, your CTR rate may suffer, your bounce rates would be high, overall your SEO would be in mess.
And you talked about CTR, click-through rate. For those people that are not familiar with the term CTR or not familiar with the idea of click-through rate, do you want to explain click-through rate for people?
Good question, Cullen. CTR is the ratio between impressions and clicks. So what this means is whenever you type a search or a query in Google shows you the top 10 results. And these are impressions. Whenever a result is displayed, it's called an impression. When you click on that result, Google registers it as a click. And the ratio between impression and clicks is called the click-through rate. So say your web page was displayed 100 times, but only, say, 10 people clicked that result. So your click-through rate would be 10%.
Okay, so an example of that would be if you had a recipe website, you've got the best apple and blueberry pie, and somebody's searching for apple and blueberry pies, and you come up at number 10 on the bottom, or you might come up on page 3 at number 30, and people scroll through those pages and then they click on your apple pie recipe. So that means that Google does a calculation, basically, that says the number of times that you have come up in the impressions. That's how it measures when somebody clicks on it. They give you a click-through rate, yeah?
Exactly. And your click-through rate would vary depending on your position.
Yeah.
So generally, position 1 would have a high click-through rate, and then it keeps falling down as you go down in rankings.
Yep, perfect. So I guess going back to keywords, how do keywords affect the click-through rate if we want to combine that conversation?
So keywords might not directly affect your click-through rate, but they will affect your bounce rate, which has an effect on your SEO. So if you have relevant keywords, and once a person clicks through the result, he will engage with your site. But if you have optimized for keywords which are not relevant, the viewer will click through the result, go to your website, and then bounce. And this low engagement and high bounce rate will negatively affect your SEO.
That's right. And so that's when people refer to a high bounce rate. So when people look at their Google Analytics, for example, they can see a bounce rate. So let's talk about an industry average of bounce rate. We know that if you've got a bounce rate of 60%, people are getting onto your website and they really don't like it. They're leaving. They're going, no, I hate this blueberry pie. I wanted something with cinnamon in it.
Oh, yes.
And so bounce off 60%, disaster. So I guess talking about how you would use keywords to lower that bounce rate, for example. So what would be a good bounce rate, do you think? Not for a sort of somebody who's really ranking highly and they've got all their SEO together, but somebody who's sort of getting there. What would be an okay bounce rate people could aim for?
I think a good bounce rate should be in the 30s.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good. I thought you were going to say 20s, which would have made me very nervous.
I think 20s is quite difficult to achieve even for highly optimized
I'm not even
site.
sure I've seen it before.
Yeah, so I have seen bounce rates for my clients in the range of early 30s and rarely in late 20s.
Okay, so that raises another query, I guess, somebody was asking me about the other day, which is to do with intent. Do you think that's kind of related to what Google thinks about intent, how it's trying to match the intent of the person?
So Google will match the intent in two ways. So first is through the CTR. So your click-through rate, so your impressions come up and no one clicks on your result. And Google says, okay, this question or the query is not matching what I'm showing as a result. So it will kind of downgrade you. The second would be once you click through and you land on the page and you bounce back, or there's very low engagement with the website as a whole. And Google would say, okay, this guy went to this web page, but it's not relevant. And that's the reason he's either bounced back or hasn't engaged with the website.
Yep. Okay. So just thinking about that in terms of keywords, now let's talk about this blueberry pie, which I'm getting kind of hungry now. And look, when we think about this blueberry pie story and we think about keywords, people might think, well, why can't I just put, this blueberry pie recipe does this and the blueberry pie recipe does that, and always get your blueberry recipes here, and, the old keyword stuffing thing that people used to do in the old days. Now, I guess if somebody was to come to you and say, how can I put together a keyword strategy for this blueberry pie recipe website? What do you say to them in terms of where to start with the research to get some of these things right from the beginning, just as some starting points for keyword research?
A simple starting point for keyword research would be to type the query, blueberry pies, in Google, and instantly Google would drop down and show you the search suggest feature, wherein it would show all the searches related to blueberry pie, maybe organic blueberry pie, etc., etc. And then once you perform the search, at the bottom of the page, you would see the related search feature, wherein Google would suggest some more keywords related to blueberry pie.
That's right. So for anyone that wasn't aware of what that is, it's basically when you get down to the bottom of the page, there's normally, I think it's about 6 or 8, sometimes 10, depends. So you get sort of 5 on one side, 5 on the other side. These other people, and Google's saying basically people are also searching for these other related things like blueberry pie with cream, blueberry pie with rum, this kind of thing, yeah? And so that you're getting some good ideas there because you're seeing what other people are searching for, yeah?
That's right.
If I was to say to you, give me your 2 top tips for keyword research for 2018, what would you say?
My 2 top keyword tips would be, first, you need to check keyword difficulty. So you need to understand how easy or how difficult it is to rank for a keyword.
Now, how do we do that?
So a couple of tools give you that keyword difficulty score. And just to remind you that there is a competition score on Google Advert tool.
Oh, yes, yep.
That's not a difficulty score.
I didn't think so. It seems very flexible.
You would be surprised how many people I've come across who think that it's an organic difficulty score. It has got nothing to do with organic difficulty. Okay. It's just for advert ranking.
Yeah.
So couple of tools which there's SEMrush or Moz and Ahrefs and other tools give you a combined difficulty keyword score. But I've found that Moz is pretty good.
Yeah, you mentioned that recently. Now, for any of our listeners that don't have access to those tools, is there any other way of gauging it? Because I guess it's not that easy to try and gauge it in another way, is it?
I think initially a tool is the best option. Otherwise, you might have to spend a couple of months or years to understand all about SEO and rankings.
Yeah, well, that certainly was too kind. Okay, so, all right. And so keyword difficulty, just finishing up on that, which we can see out of Moz and in SEMrush, that is looking at, when we think about how well Moz does it, what are the factors that Moz are taking into account? Because I guess it's looking at all the competition for that keyword. So let's go with blueberry pie with a sweet crust pastry.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're looking in Moz for the keyword difficulty of that over blueberry pie, what's Moz using to measure that? Just briefly, in a real quick nutshell.
For coming up with keyword difficulty score, Moz uses domain authority, page authority, I think click-through rates, etc.
Okay, brilliant. Well, look, just wrapping up before we move on to just a final announcement about your event for anyone that wants to attend. Any other quick tips to think about keyword research for those people who don't have access to tools, who are just starting their website? Somebody's just about to launch their website on WordPress or Squarespace, and they've got a couple of hours. They want to do some more keyword research. Apart from that, any other thing you think they should do?
You can use Google Keyword Planner.
Yep.
It's free,
Yep.
But the downside is now Google has restricted the number. So it instead of giving you exact search volumes like 1,000 or 1,500, it gives you a range. So it will just give you from 1K to 10K or 10K to 20K. What I would suggest is learn a bit more about keyword research,
Yep.
understand taxonomies, understand semantics, categories.
Okay, yep. And I just want to give, I guess, a bit of a tip that I use, and it's a little bit unconventional, and you might be thinking, wow. But I find for me, when I think about keyword research, is I'll often just take my huge scrapbook, which I carry around, and all of my felt tips and all of my coloured pens, and I go to a cafe and I sit down for a few hours, and I just get on my phone, I look around, I might pick up magazines, I might look at, the kind of messaging that's written on signs on streets and, people advertising, and just try to get a different context, a kind of a bit of a deep, long way of kind of beginning to get a storyboard around the subject or the topic. And I think that really helps me before I even get involved in the keywords research to actually understand what is the language, what is the conversation. Does that make sense to you to be doing that?
Yes, I think that's a good starting point. Like you get a broad idea of what your users are, what they would be typing in, and then you can use that data that you have and feed it into a keyword research tool to get targeted keywords.
Yep, brilliant. So do you want to just tell us a little bit about the event? Again, a reminder before we wrap up.
Yes, so we have this event on the 11th of September at WeWorks in Melbourne. And this is an SEO masterclass where we will be learning all about keyword research. Title of the workshop is How to Do Keyword Research Like a Boss.
Wow. And I also noticed on the invites, I can see there's a few people coming from around Melbourne who are in the kind of social good space. Can I say that?
Yes. And as you're aware, I do SEO for social good, wherein I keep one day of my work week aside to provide free SEO services and consultancy to businesses working for social good and for non-profit organizations.
Wow. Okay, Rajiv, just we're going to jump onto a few questions that have been sent to us. Before we do, can I ask you for our listeners, where can we get in touch with you and view some of your SEO philosophy?
You can visit my website. That's www.seoauditing, AUDITING, seoauditing.com.au. Or you can also email me at Rajiv, RAJIV, at seoauditing.com.au.
Okay, so Mr. Bogota. Now, I've heard that name before, Mr. Bogota. asks, why is it important to name images in your website, and why is it also important to name images when you're posting them out? We had a recent event where we took photos and posted them on Twitter and Facebook, etc., without naming them. Would naming them help our event or our brand by getting Google to match them to our brand? Or will Google magically know the images belong to my brand even though the image has not got a name because I posted it on my Twitter account? This is a great question. I love this question.
So, unfortunately, Google cannot magically know what your image is about. You have to tell Google what your image is all about. And you can easily do that by having descriptive names for your image files. So if your image is, say, about a white, cute puppy, don't name the image as img0078.jpg. Rename the image to cute white puppy. The second thing would be, besides the name, would be the alt text.
Now, alt text, do you want to just give it to people who don't know it? Because I guess if you're using WordPress, you're kind of prompted now to put in your alt text and other things. But for people that don't understand alt text on their images?
So alt text describes an image, and this is used for accessibility for people who can't see images on web pages, including users who use screen readers. So Google takes this alt text description to make sense of what the image is all about.
Okay. All right. Brilliant. Look, last question is from Bradley. Bradley asked, what is better for on-page SEO when using charts? And alt tag image or embedded SVG data for any charts within an article? Great question. So we're running out of time. I think what we'll do is we'll post that question inside the text for this podcast because I think there's a bit of depth to go in there, and we can give you a bit more of an example as well. Sound okay?
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
Okay, brilliant. All right, but look, just wrapping up on that, if you want to send me your questions, you can do that. Send them to Rajiv and I. You can send it to Cullen, Cullen, at eatmag.com, EATTMAG.com. Just send us your questions, and Rajiv and I will have a look at them. Hopefully we can get those out in time for the next podcast. So look, thanks for joining us, Rajiv. It's been great to have you. This is part 5. It feels like we covered a lot in, I guess, around about 20 minutes or so. So what are we looking at next time?
Next time, we'll be looking at content and why content is very important for an effective SEO strategy.
All right. Well, look, thanks for joining us, everybody. We'll roll out now. Just a reminder, we've got a new website, which is the Silicon Beach Oz. That's OZ.net. We've got some stuff coming up there. Just a huge shout out and a thanks to all of the team on Silicon Beach, or particularly all of our volunteers. We've got a lot of volunteers coming on now from even different parts of the world, certainly outside of Australia, digital people that really want to, I guess, kind of help out, sharing some social media stuff as well. So if you've got some marketing skills or you've got a couple of volunteer hours you want to put into Silicon Beach, by all means, do that. And we'll catch you next time when we dig into content. So we'll see you then. Oh, by the way, we've got some music coming out. Haven't we? We've got a track you've chosen. Now, the track you've chosen, I believe it's called Tribal.
Mm-hmm.
And it's by the Jimmy Yucca Band. And we're going to include the URL as well inside the post. So if people want to get more details on this music, they can do that.
Fantastic.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers. Bye.
from Silicon Beach Radio today. I'm glad a Tulu wasn't
This makes so much more sense now.
That's what we're speaking on.
Yeah.
Silicon Beach has radio?
Yeah.
Wait, you're recording.
This is part of it.
Silicon Beach also has a business model and
Tulu
sponsorship.
can't hear this bit.